This episode was recorded last fall and will be airing more new episodes that we recorded before hiatus every Thursday through Halloween. Also, check out Dan's stand-up special, Dance Fatty Dance, on YouTube and subscribe to his new pod, Burbs Bros, with Sean Donnelly. Enjoy the show.
Hellraiser. Beyond any terror you have imagined.
Welcome, everybody, to The It Couple. I am here with my lovely wife, Sarah Olako, and one of my favorite people in the world. He is a hilarious comedian. We just did his podcast. Mm-hmm. It Gets Better-ish. No, that was his web series.
You're making it worse.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
God.
It was a lovely
No
intro,
worries.
just with the wrong credit. That was, that's only... no, let's keep this, because I have a story for this.
I'm comfortable being demeaned.
The only worse intro than that is, I remember when I first started comedy, this was like a year in, I was doing this, it's bad because one of my best friends in comedy, Michael Laurence, and he came up to me, he goes, hey, there's this chicken restaurant on 23rd and 7th, it gives you time. And
It gives you what?
It gives you time. He's a comic, all you want is new time to do
You
jokes.
could perform
And
to do stand-up
Yeah,
at.
it was just like...
To eat at.
Middle-aged black guy, probably like how old I am now, maybe a little older. And then he goes, who are you? And I told him my name. And he just introduced me. He goes, our next comedian, Dan. There's no last name. It was just Dan, like it was a sitcom or something. And
right.
And no one ever even like raised their fucking eyes from their chicken. But Brent, I love you. I'm glad you could be here. I'm glad you could talk about one of my favorite one of my favorite horror movies, Hellraiser.
The original.
Guys, thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here, and I will say I am a fan of the horror genre. Did you think I was going to say your podcast? I'm a fan of the horror genre.
Nobody says that, Brent. I didn't think
First-time caller, long-time listener, Brent Sullivan.
That said, I had never seen Hellraiser until last night. And I was actually very sincerely impressed. Mm-hmm. I was really blown away.
I love it. I love this movie. It's like, even because it's one of these movies that even the stuff that doesn't work is so campy and fun. You're just kind of like, oh, fuck it. Just
I
have
find
fun,
that there's
guys.
a lot of chewing of the scenery, mostly by the dad, like the actor. And then, it just... What a fun tale.
I went in skeptical because, again, as a fan of the genre, I generally find horror movies pre-1990, unless they're total classics, I find them generally pretty boring.
Yeah.
And like, what was it? I think I watched the original Child's Play or whatever last year and found it really dry. Like, Chucky kills like 3 people in that movie. You're like, guys, this is a 90-minute movie. I need more than this.
Yeah,
like,
I need more kills.
I need more shit,
Yeah.
So sometimes movies back then take a while to get going and like, fucking 70 minutes in, you're like, everyone's still alive. What are we doing?
Child's Play can never be scary because Chucky is too funny of a character.
He's so cute.
It's like...
Brent, I love the little critters.
And I think
don't like the
Pinhead's
aliens.
pretty funny. But, like, I think Chucky, he's just Triumph the Insult Dog in a horror movie.
Yeah. Yes.
Which I love. But it's because of that, I watch it with a different hat.
The voice is a little weird. Yeah. No, I hear you.
It's Sarah when she gets pissed. Chucky is Sarah when she gets pissed.
That's why I love him so much. I'm like, I see you.
One of the things we're starting out every podcast with is, what lesson is this movie teaching you to keep alive? And for me, I've got it. Stop at the gimp outfit, guys. If you're starting to get you want to explore sexually, that's fine. But like once you get past that first gimp outfit, there's nothing more for you. It's only going to end in murder, I think.
Yeah.
Like you eventually have to stop sexual exploration. That's
You're right.
Yeah, you can enjoy the pleasure
This
in the
is coming from Dan St. Germain, which is very surprising.
I mean, a gimp,
to hear Dan shit on sexual exploration.
Well, I'm always nervous. I usually have a bit about that, but aren't you nervous about I'm 39. I don't want to know anything new about me sexually. I understand, if you're younger and you're like, oh my God, I'm into this. I didn't realize. But I don't want to be 39 and go to an aquarium and then go to one of those tanks where you pet the fish. And then I pet a fish and then I come harder than I ever have in my entire life.
I feel
and
like
I'm
you would
fuck,
love
I'm
that.
into this now. Fuck. This whole time.
Right.
I didn't find Nemo, but I found the clit,
I'll be honest with you, Dan. I didn't know you were 5 years older than me, but I'll be honest with you. When it comes to sexual exploration, you are talking to the wrong guy. I can barely take my shirt off without instantly draping a blanket over my body.
But you're so svelte.
It doesn't matter how old I am or how reasonably okay I look. I'm just like, let's get this garbage over with as soon as possible.
Well, you dress like a bodybuilder because you're always in hoodies. So underneath it could be this.
Yeah, you have
it
a
could be
six
Ryan
pack.
Coleman or Kai Green or, you take it out. It's just like a 9-pack.
Yeah, dress like a bodybuilder. I love that description.
I just love body. I love it. They have these beautiful bodies, and then they have to wear these hoodies. So
But they also cut off the arms so you can see their guns. You know what I mean? Like a lot of them
no one
cut
can
them.
see my titties.
No one can see their boobs.
When you're a male bodybuilder, they become breasts.
Yes.
Right.
So
they become breasts.
They feel like they'll be arrested if they walk around with them
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
showing off to the public.
I'm trying to think of Sarah. Do you have like a big take home lesson from this movie?
My big take-home lesson would be don't fuck your husband's brother.
That's a pretty reasonable one.
Right?
That's actually a lot more grounded than what happened. Yeah, I was thinking if you pick up a woman at a food court at the mall or wherever they meet, and she takes you back home and she tries to fuck you in the attic, you should just leave instead of going inside.
Have you ever been in a situation like this where you have gone to a guy's place or they've come over, and it's almost like that Arrested Development, like this was a terrible idea.
No, I made a huge mistake. That's what
I made a huge mistake.
I haven't had a sexual encounter that isn't filled with regret. But that said, I also am so afraid of being murdered that I generally won't find myself in really creepy, precarious, truly an attic.
Yeah,
an unfurnished attic apartment is
Right.
I would not go inside.
Would you have gone into Phil Spector's home? He had a beautiful mansion. Would you have gone inside?
Look, if there's an old
Thinking you'd
Victorian
survive.
couch at the front, I'm almost certain I would have gone in there. Yes. I'm not saying it's a foolproof method, but it has worked for me thus far. I mean, what about you, Sarah? But before you met Dan, were you?
she had never been with a guy before.
no, I was,
She was a virgin. Would you ever do hookups, or was that just not your thing?
yeah. I mean, I would date people, but no, not a lot of one night stands. And
Yeah.
I wouldn't. God, I feel like I would go to their apartments though, which is stupid me. Now you think
Yeah.
about it, because I always had a
Yeah.
roommate. I don't find. I think that I'm very cautious. Like when Dan was living in, where the hell were you living? In Koreatown or something?
In Sin, baby.
He was living next to the clown stripper place. I can't think of the name of it.
It was Jumbo's Clown Room, and
Jumbo's
I went on
Clown
a
Room.
lovely
That's
date
right.
with one of the performers there.
Of course he did.
You also, by the way, invited me there once, Dan.
Oh, that's right.
I do
well, one
love
of the
that
times
story.
and then we'll get to the movie, but the story does
yeah.
have to be told.
Sorry.
Okay, so I don't know if you guys do this, but I have a drug and alcohol problem, and at times
Surprise! Spoiler.
basically what happens is I go 6 months or a couple years sometimes not drinking, and then old Saint Germain falls off the wagon.
And then you go to Key West, and
I go,
he's
what's
fucking
that?
Jimmy Buffett.
Anyway, I hope he's in heaven with my mom right now.
He is.
But
They're partying.
we were at we had a session. Me and Brent developed this really funny show, and we were at the end of this. Well, Brent, you should really tell the story. So
Yeah. I still remember it clear as day. We developed a show. We'd worked on this project together for a while, And I went over to Dan's place, and I just remember the vibe. The vibe was off that day, and I couldn't tell why. But we had just a quick meeting. We had to kind of finish up a couple final notes before we took it out. And I still remember it. Like, I was looking at you, and you were looking at me, and I'd been there 10, 15 minutes. The vibe was off, and then all of a sudden, you just pull like a 24-ounce can of beer from like behind like a cabinet. You're like, "You want to go to Jumbo's Clown Room with me? I'll pay." And I was like, "Oh no, I don't. I don't want to do that."
Yeah. Like, what a strikeout! Like, not only are I'm gonna bring a daytime strip club with my gay friends,
And it's not even a strip club;
Yeah.
it's a bikini. They wear bikinis. I don't think they're.
And by the way, I
topless.
don't go to strip clubs ironically, so it would just be me and Brent looking at the girls dance and me being like,
God.
"She's hot, right?" And him being like, "They all do the same for me."
Right. I think they're topless there. I don't think they're bottomless though.
They have doilies.
Oh, over there.
Oh, they have
lady
doilies.
bits?
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh, so it's like
Actually,
burlesque.
I saw a TED talk about no. I'm just kidding. Let's.
Anyway, sorry. Let's get back to the movie.
I was also will say
apologize.
another lesson. I was very happy to be married to Sarah by the end of this.
Oh, that's sweet.
Because I was like, I like that I date a woman with no secrets. You
This
know,
is true.
right.
like some guys
right.
love a woman with a secret.
Oh, a
Not
woman,
me.
a mysterious woman, not in the least.
No.
I mean, there's nothing. Pretty open book here.
Don't. Serious. All right. So before we get into the cast, let's just some bare bones Hellraiser facts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Released in 1987, written and directed by Clive Barker. This was the first. He's a playwright before this. This was his first time directing, and his prep was like literally he tried to go to a library and get 2 books on how to direct, and they didn't
wow.
have it. So he just
Just winged it.
just winged it.
I don't know if you could tell by the fine
But it was,
cinematography.
it was super successful. Produced by Chris Fig, production company, Film Futures. The budget was $1 million. The box office was 14.6. Reviews in England were good. America was mixed. The Times didn't love it. It was supposed to be a British movie, but
Which is why everybody has an accent.
yeah, it is
for the
filmed and
most
set
part.
in London. But then one of the producers just said, "Let's put it in America." Because they thought that it would be more profitable. Andrew Robertson is Larry. Clare Higgins is Julia. Ashley Laurence is Kirsty. Sean Chapman is Frank. Oliver Smith is Frank the Monster. First victim.
I don't think we need to get into
Well, no,
all
but
of
I
Yeah,
got to
right.
get into some of these. Okay, Doug Bradley is Hellraiser, or the lead in Cenobite. He's also one of the movers. That is who Pinhead is. Nicholas Vance
Oh.
is
I know.
yeah,
I just found that out.
the bald guy.
The heavier one,
Yeah, that's
not the one that hits on her,
the other
Oh.
guy.
right?
Yep.
Was that because they ran out? Is that like some? I don't. Is that like presumably intentional? Right.
I think he wanted to just do a cameo. Yeah. I mean, he had worked with the guy, Clive Barker, and him had worked before.
Mm-hmm.
And the character Pinhead, it's
Yeah.
kind of like a weird, because what we see as Pinhead is actually a version of some other hunter character that he wrote in a play that was Undead Hunt. But in the book, because it's based on a book that Clive also wrote, like Pinhead doesn't look like Pinhead. He's wearing a dress. He talks in a feminine voice. His backstory is that he was this really happy-go-lucky guy who went to World War I, and then during the Battle of Flanders had PTSD, and then because of that went on almost like a journey of the flesh, and was just trying to get high and have as much sex as possible, and that's when he walked into our Nintendo GameCube, and ends
that
up
thing.
being
Interesting. A real Dan Saint Germain character, if we're being honest. I love the idea that Clive Barker was writing plays. I think of like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids the musical or something, and he's like writing that, and then he jumps to Hellraiser. It's wild.
Yeah, dude. No, all his plays were like, the coming of the locusts. It was all like gothic. And
Right.
Was it?
It was dark.
Whenever I hear play, I think of like campy, not even campy, pathetic Disney Broadway musicals.
No, this was like really dark, like gothic kind of shit. It was based on the novel The Hellbound Heart. And my favorite thing about this is that one of the jobs on set was a maggot wrangler. And I don't know why I thought of Brent. I just kept thinking of this guy like getting the Like the Hollywood call, like being so excited to tell his parents that he got the maggot wrangler job. Mom and Dad, I know I've been here. I know I've been in Los Feliz for a couple years, but I finally got it. I am a lead maggot wrangler.
Right. And I know exactly the scene that you're talking about. And it's like, again, like this movie is just non-stop thrills. And it sounds like cliche to say, but it really blew me away. It's great from the beginning. Some of the dialogue is a little bit bizarre. I also love that the son called his mom the old lady. Like, who talks about their mom that way? Like, that is so bizarre.
That's right. Because he goes
Very
back to
cold.
her house. I also love the reveal of Julia in the beginning just being so turned off by this house and wondering, well, where is Frank, your brother, and all this other kind of stuff.
Right.
And then finding out that they had quite the love affair.
It does feel very directed by like a cold, over it gay guy who Clive Barker is. Because like all the scenes where it's just supposed to be like, you know, like the dinner scene where the friends are talking, he makes them look so boring and miserable. Like anything that's like vaguely heteronormative, he's just like, ugh, gross.
Oh, and like, doesn't the boyfriend of the daughter make some odd sex comment and like
Yes.
in front of her dad and her stepmom? And it's just like, and everyone laughs. It's like, what is happening in this world?
That's the Clive Barker world, baby.
I also love how at the dinner scene, the stepmom, I never remember
Julia.
names.
Is it Julia?
Julia, I've never this happens only in movies, and I've never seen this happen any other time in the world, where she's at this dinner party and she's like, I'm gonna go to bed. Have you ever announced to your friends that you're just going to bed?
I mean, I'll be honest.
And that's that.
Yes, I actually have said to Dan,
Well, that's
but not
different.
at a dinner. But he'll just do the old
It's
Irish
usually
goodbye.
halfway through my act. She goes, I'm going to bed.
No, but I know what you mean, like at a proper dinner party that was at the neighbor's house.
At a proper dinner party, it's just weird to be like, I'm gonna go put on my PJs. See you later.
She also only said goodbye to the two guys closest to the door.
Well, he had sense of humor.
Kisses them, and everyone else can go fuck themselves.
Clive Barker hated the word Hellraiser.
Yeah.
Hellraiser was the fans coming up with. Originally, he wanted to call it, which is a way worse. He wanted to call
Hell Priest.
Hell Priest. He goes, he's the Hell Priest.
Yep.
Which I just think that's hilarious.
Actually,
It's not
Which
as
he
good.
actually kind of is dressed like a priest.
He is
if
dressed
you
like the
look
Hell
at
Priest,
him.
but it's just like I love Clive Barker just getting angry. Like it's a fucking Hell Priest. It's a fucking
It's
Hell
not a
Priest.
Hellraiser.
Hellraiser is stupid. You're not even spell it right.
It is sad the how tense arguments are about really unimportant things.
Yes.
In entertainment, I think anything could technically be unimportant, and like the idea of having impassioned arguments, screaming matches about
that's Reddit. You go on and they're just like, oh, Delta Airlines, who's ever sat in this seat? And then they all get in arguments about it. I follow the Delta Airlines on Reddit.
Yeah.
But that's the interwebs.
Well, some other titles bounced around before Hellraisers were Sadomasochists from Beyond the Grave, which would have been totally campy,
A little
and Roger-
clunky.
a little clunky. And then
Yeah.
this had to be Clive's idea, but Clive's other idea was what a woman will do for a good fuck.
No, that's a lie.
I swear to
What?
God, that was
No, there's no way.
Good Lord.
oh come on, just him being like, honey, I've seen it before.
He's like, oh, these execs, they're so uptight. These entertainment execs.
I would love to see a director's cut, which is just like every time the dad says something, you just like cut to Clive Barker rolling his eyes, being like, "Oh, what a dipshit! What a fucking dipshit!" And also the costume designer, who I think is the real MVP of this movie, Jane Wild Goose, which is a real name.
Wild Goose.
She was given the prompt by Clive Barker. He just goes, "Repulsive glamour." That's all he said, which is
God. Which should
is
be
true.
the name of your special.
That should be
Repulsive
yeah,
glamour.
Yeah, I'm Eddie Izzard.
Tossing
And,
around some
apparently,
ideas.
she was inspired by S&M, punk rock, and of course, the Catholic Church.
So, I mean, obviously, I when it comes to movies, I'm a fucking idiot. Like, I never get symbolism or whatever. But the most obvious theme in this is that it's sort of like a BDSM thing because
sure, yeah.
the necromancers or whatever they're called, they can't tell between pleasure and pain, and that's all I had to say.
Yeah, no,
so I'm literally so dumb. That
my
my
takeaway
train of thought
was
ends
Clive
there.
Barker is a
Gay?
bottom who loves aggressive tops. He loves just.
I didn't know he was gay. By the way, I had no idea.
no,
he
you can
loves,
watch
he,
it, though.
he loves just getting thrown around. That's what I thought.
Oh wow, there we
And
go.
even I was checking out his boyfriend, who's a longtime part. This guy's ripped.
Dan really gets into
Really?
this,
Yeah.
by the way.
Just
Like,
right as a rough
you
man.
tell him there's a gay director, he is like
Yeah, man, I'm
going
into it.
through
I was-
records and artifacts.
I'm a straight. I am in a lot of ways. I am the first trans gay guy because I feel like I live as a gay man, but I like pussy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're gonna send Clive Barker an email inviting him to a strip club. just spend a little quality time together.
Because now he's like 80, so he's got like a breath. It's just him in an oxygen mask. Like, me and him hanging out in the corner. All right, let's get to the movie. We start out, and I'll go through the opening and then we'll stop.
Yeah.
But, in Morocco, Frank Cotton purchased an antique puzzle box, which once solved is said to summon beings who will give pleasure and ecstasy. Upon purchasing the box, he is told by the salesman, played by James Hong, "Take it, it's yours. It always was." A little bit of a trope, which was mysterious evil Asian guy. Right?
By the way, in
For
Morocco,
sure.
why are
And
we
problematic casting.
they're in
Morocco.
Morocco? Like, why aren't they
Right.
in, I don't know, China or something, or Chinatown?
Well, because Clive Barker goes to Thailand himself, so he probably was like,
Yeah.
let's get the scent off me.
Right.
No, the beginning of this movie is very much, I'm like, isn't this like what Gary Glitter was doing the last couple of years of his life
Yeah,
before prison,
right.
just like weirdly third world sex trafficking. Which always is. So he gets home with the box. He attempts to solve the box in his candlelit attic, the house that will come to know and love. As he shifts different pieces of the box, light engulfs the room. Hooks shoot out, attaching themselves to Frank's skin and rips him
they
apart.
start attaching him to his
Yeah.
nipple,
Well,
which is
yeah.
also, if you think about it, very
Which is
erotic.
very
and-
intense.
yeah.
Very erotic, but also quite intense.
And
Very
the room
intense.
returns as nothing happened. So in the beginning, basically, the guy he comes himself to death, I guess.
Huh.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, that's
Oh, yeah. He exploded.
that's certainly a one interpretation. But
Am I wrong? No.
I think Dan might need a little quality time
I
alone,
know. Dan
or
is
with his
either-
wife sometime in the
Dan-
near future.
Well, I
Dan-
read the autopsy said cause of death come too hard, come too good. Which are the two? It was a come CUMT good.
Yeah, I mean, things start off with a bang. Like watching, like it's really gruesome watching this guy get ripped apart, and it's with what 1,000 different hooks, and it's so visceral and weirdly intimate that it really hooks you instantly. Yeah.
No
Did you-
pun
did-
intended.
Did you have?
Yeah, right.
Did you have any preconceptions going into this? Like, what did you think Hellraiser was? Do you think it was just?
Yeah, it's so funny you say that because everyone knows Pinhead, and so I just assumed it was like the standard like Pinhead is a bad guy and he's killing a bunch of people, and obviously this movie is a lot more circuitous and complicated than that. So yeah, I was surprised not to see Pinhead immediately or quickly.
Right.
That was like, and at a certain point I was like, what the fuck is going on? Am I watching the right Hellraiser?
Yeah.
Right.
And so but obviously again, that's what makes it, I think, more intricate and interesting.
You know what it is? It's just as campy as other horror movies, but the plot and the style are so different.
Yeah, it's
and
very
the story itself.
It's very
Like-
dramatic and soap opera-y, especially Julia.
Yeah.
A lot of the shots of her like reminiscing and the passion and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's very, very like Falcon Crest, Knots Landing, we'll say. Like it's a little too much, a little too heavy but that's also Clive Barker.
Yeah.
That's him for you.
Oh, Clive Barker in this movie, I think Clive Barker identifies the most with the wife character, right?
Fuck yeah.
Because she just seems like it's her movie, really. And then
Yeah, she's miserable in a relationship and she wants to fuck
Frank.
and or can be easily cajoled into fucking any number of
People.
people, or using her, her breasts to entice men over to her place for evil. Yeah, no, I definitely think there's sort of like that's an interesting point that I hadn't considered, but I definitely see sort of like an evil gay prototype in the wife.
Right.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
like,
for
she just
sure.
seems like she's over everybody in this movie. In the
She
I just imagine that she's Clive Barker. Honestly, she hates everybody in this
yes,
movie.
except for Frank. He's the only one she's
Right.
loyal to. But she's mean to the guys she brings home. She's mean to Kirsty. She's mean to the people at the dinner party. But then when it comes to Frank, she is fully submissive.
Yeah, she's.
So-
I do love that scene where Frank is like this like ghoul of just sinew and like muscle, and he's still like, I want to feel your breasts. He still wants like hunger titties.
And he does.
You're like,
He
Jesus
reaches.
Christ.
That's
Frank.
Dan. Dan does that
that's
sometimes.
That's why I
It is.
identified with this movie so much. That's me and
All right.
Sarah's
So
sex.
the wife is a miserable gay man, and Frank is Dan St. Germain.
Well, yeah.
Yes.
I think we're
You know what?
learning.
This is just everyone's just a different version of me in this movie.
This is true.
I honestly think the guy who plays Frank is good, but this is like, if you want to talk about a perfect Kevin Spacey role, Frank as like the guy who's like sinewy and like in the shadow, like he would be.
I also think that when Frank would speak, it always sounded like he was being dubbed. And I think it's because he's a British actor that can't do an American accent. So he talks like this all the time.
interesting.
Like it's so put upon. Like you can just feel it's put on. Like you can just feel that he's not very good at accent work.
No.
Yeah.
Not very
Tragically.
good. Not very good accent. So, okay, sometime later, Larry, played by Andrew Robinson, and his wife, Julia, who we've been talking about, played by Clare Higgins, go to look at the house. There's some flashbacks of when she was with Frank, and they had an affair that the brother didn't know about.
They were getting married, and then they do it on top of her wedding dress. That's the first.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
He's coming. He comes to the house. The flashback is he comes to the house. And she's like, "Who are you?" He's like, "I'm the brother." And then he comes in and he's there for the wedding.
Yeah, he fucks her
So
in
it's
the
like
dress.
the
It's
night
very
before the
Richard
wedding.
the Third, very British, very Richard the Third.
Yeah. I love when movies from the 80s will cast someone like the brother who's supposed to be sort of bad but sultry and beautiful, and it's like literally what you would describe as like a 4 out of 10 now.
Yes, seriously, with 5 o'clock shadow, like constant.
With a 5 o'clock shadow. The standard of beauty in the 80s was so profoundly different than now.
different.
Like the guy has like my dad's body. Like it's just
Yeah,
like
he's basically
it's just so
CrossFit
funny.
Paul Reiser in this movie.
Hey, he got a lot of ladies. There's a lot of photos Julia finds of him
Well, they're all
doing.
sex workers too, right? They're all prostitutes.
Oh.
Are they? How did you figure that out?
Well, because he was on like a pussy journey.
No, I thought they were just from his past.
Yeah, but he's making them like wear masks topless.
So
and
that's
stuff.
very Hunter Biden. That is actually, it's very reminiscent.
Maybe this is what
of
this
some
is.
of
This
our-
is the story of
this
Hunter
is-
Biden.
this
This
is the story.
entire-
There's a lot of that weird, like pulling the girl
I
from
mean,
behind.
because Joe wouldn't know. Joe would have no idea
Oh, my
whether
God.
or not. Oh, Bo's back. Sorry, those
Yeah,
two
right.
work. That's enough. Yikes! All right,
Julia does not get along with Kirsty, the
No,
daughter.
Kirsty is introduced. She calls the house.
She found her own apartment.
Played by Ashley Lawrence, by the way, who's stunning. Kind of looks like the girl from Say Anything.
She's
What's
very
her? Iona Skye.
Ione Skye.
Ione Skye.
Yeah, she's very cute.
Yeah, she's pretty.
Hey, let's watch her, Brent. Let's
That's
watch.
it.
Let's watch her act. Oh yeah, look at those choices she's making. All right, so they're trying to move in the house. The moving men. This is where you get a cameo from Pinhead. Pinhead is one of the moving men here.
Mm-hmm.
They give him like no lines, and I was talking about this with our producers before this, but sad thing about this movie, the guy who played Pinhead, which Doug Bradley, you never saw him without the makeup. So when he came to the set party, none of the other actors talked to him because they didn't think he was like a thing. So he just kind of like ate a sandwich
It's
in the
very
corner.
strange that they didn't even have like a rehearsal beforehand where he maybe wasn't in the Pinhead costume.
Well, you could
Yeah.
tell he was also like he stopped doing the Hellraiser movies in 2011.
Yeah.
And his reasoning was they had in my contract, they said they had a non-disclosure agreement, and I've never been forced to sign one of those. So I said no. And I'm like, there's something else behind this story.
No.
Yeah.
Probably
Yeah.
got too
There's-
fat for the suit.
Gotta be something
Yeah.
else. I mean, don't Jimmy John's workers sign NDAs? Like, I don't think they're that rare.
Yeah, he got too he
got
got
too
he got
fat.
too
He
fat. He got
doesn't
in a
fit
leather
into it.
thing, like a nipple popped out, and they're like,
Yeah. He's like, oh man.
maybe we could just get somebody. Let's just get a thin guy with some stick it up. Anyway,
Oh my God, wait, this is the best part because Larry is like poor, sad little Larry who just is like, hey, babe, are you okay? Hey, he's just like such a cuck in this movie. And when he's helping the guys with the mattress, Julia's doing nothing, of course, but like reminiscing about fucking Frank on her wedding dress. And the phone rings and he sarcastically goes, well, I guess I'll get it. I have nothing else better to do. And it's like, oh, okay, William Shatner School of Acting, like bring it back, like bring it down a little bit. It's very, I mean, he's so intense in this movie. In moments he doesn't have to be.
he just makes a lot of big choices. He's also
Huge.
he's in Chucky 3 as like the military barber, as like this like butch alpha, like, hey, you gonna get in the military, you gonna get your head shaved, you know? And it also doesn't feel particularly real.
Yeah.
But hey, man, you know, it was a different time.
Yeah.
I it was funny how challenging it was to for these 3 grown men to move a bed. I was intrigued by that.
know.
Because like literally, like usually the one thing when moving that isn't that bad is a bed.
Is a mattress.
It's a mattress.
Yeah.
It's not
It's
even
a mattress. It's like it you know, it's a little unwieldy, but it's not that heavy. And I just love these 3 grown men can't get this bed up one stair.
One stair.
And
That's right.
and that's how he scrapes his hand, which is also interesting because it's sort of like, you know, it's so like everything starts via this very like innocuous cut on his hand, and you know the gore that comes as a result is just, you know, phenomenal.
Right.
Well, it's a seamless transition, which is why Brent is an excellent guest.
100%.
Because the bloodletting, the blood sacrifice, if you will, the blood goes into the floorboards, and that somehow is able to trigger Frank back to life.
Yes.
Or at least partially back to life. He's been,
Right.
you know, the last time we saw him, he's just kind of like a bunch of different appendages.
Right.
And now he's kind of slowly coming back.
And then he comes out looking like the body exhibit from behind the wall. He's like,
I remember
Julia.
the-
it's me."
Right.
And he's like, clearly.
I went to that. By the way, that was not fun.
No.
No, it wasn't.
I'm into gore, and it was like, I don't need to see some guy splayed on a horse. It doesn't make any sense. Like this isn't science. This is horse shit.
I mean, it almost is like fucking, like they were in a panic meeting at the Natural History Museum, and they're like, we gotta get, all right, King Tut's, we can't keep bringing out fucking King Tut's tomb, but how about just random dead people? All right,
Dead people. Cut him open. What?
just throw them up and make some fucking brochures. I don't know. They love it, right?
That is
I
so
love
funny.
it.
All right.
And then
Sorry,
people did go.
continue.
Right. So the blood starts forming into some organs. And,
Into some organs, and
But nobody sees this. This is happening only to the viewer watching the film.
yeah.
No one notices anything yet.
In the night, Christy, Julia, Larry, they have some family members. They're partying. That's where Brent says, Julia says she's excusing herself to go to sleep, which is something no one does. And she appears to have like more memories of her and Frank. And then she discovers Frank. Frank grabs her. And first he goes, "Don't look at me," which is like the most. Like that's kind of a hard.
Don't look at me. Give me your titties.
I think that was from our wedding night. Actually, that was what I said to Sarah to seal the deal.
I feel like if Dan was walking out like the bodies exhibit, it would just be like bacon grease instead of like it'd be bacon and cheese.
There's like one of those. You remember those Chips bugles? There's like a bugle up my ass.
I remember that. So I will say this about this scene, especially for a movie that might not have had a massive budget, I was again incredibly impressed with the quality of Frank at this stage. It's gory, it's disgusting, but it's still like believable. It's a really phenomenal outfit that they gave him, that they gave this actor.
You can tell that he's in like a bodysuit the first time because every time Frank receives blood from anybody, it's just any male blood, it helps get him stronger and stronger into going back to being Frank and being a man again.
Right.
Well, apparently Barker wanted the cover of the movie to be Frank in that outfit, where he's just wearing the body's outfit.
Oh,
And the
interesting.
producers are kind of like,
It's a little intense.
Yeah.
yeah, the producers are like, well, none of that, but we've kind of seen that before,
Right.
you know. And then Barker was like, well, I disagree, but
And
I
he-
think
and
Pinhead
then
should be
he said-
revealed. But that's fine if that's what you believe.
He
then
said,
that's
I'm
what we'll
going
do.
to bed. And he left the meeting.
Yeah.
I'm going to bed.
I'm going to bed 10 minutes into dinner. So I guess we're learning that Clive Barker's a real bitch about
I
everything
think
and has
that's the
really bad
takeaway.
instincts.
That's the takeaway.
This would have
Terrible
been called,
instincts.
This would have been like Hell Priest and just a normal. Like it would have been, no one would have seen this movie.
I actually, just to play devil's advocate for a second, I actually think Hell Priest is decent. But the one about the one, this is why women like to get fucked. I'll pass on that one. So I'll pass on that title. Anyway, sorry, Dan. Go ahead.
Because you know what it is? You can't see that movie without Clive Barker saying it.
Yes.
It's like that title, it's just cut to him with like a long cigarette being like, what women will get fucked, am I right? And then they go back to the movie.
I cannot believe that was actually a title that
I
they
guess,
considered. Like,
yeah.
that is
Absolutely
Also,
insane.
wild
this
to me.
by the way, the party that they're having, again, this is why like Clive Barker fucking hates straight relationships
hates straight
because
people.
this is because he goes, come on, honey, we're doing the night of the paper hat, which sounds like whatever this is a callback to is the lamest fucking thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
Is that a British thing? Is that like, the balloon game where
I
you
have
can
no
pop
idea.
it into each other's
I
bodies?
wonder, but they also have a crazy moment in this where she goes up to bed, and then I guess they had to ADR the line, "Does it still hurt?" And the girl, the line delivery, if you go back, Brent, and watch this, of the woman going, "Does it still hurt?" It's so out of place and crazy, and I don't know how it made the cut. Like, we're watching this, we're like, how the
you
fuck
don't,
does this?
Dan? You don't know how
Oh,
that
wait,
made the cut?
Wait, I know exactly what
Yeah.
you're talking about. What, like, it's a line that doesn't make sense.
Well, because
right?
he cuts himself open, from
And they're
from
at
the
the
bed.
dinner.
Yes,
And-
I had the same
Yeah.
thought. I was like, boy, that should have been edited out.
Right.
It didn't make sense.
No, because Julia leaves, and then you just hear a woman. You never see her go, "Does it still hurt?" And like, it's so loud. He goes,
It's
"Huh?
so weird.
Oh, yes." Like, he's for a second like, "My heart still hurts," but it's his hand. And then Julia's, off to the races
He's
to
so
find
weird.
Frankie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Christy is dreaming, and
And there's this bed full of blood, and she pulls the sheet off of it and sees her dad murdered. So he's got blood all over him. And she was like, okay, I was dreaming. That was a dream. She calls Larry, the boyfriend. He answers and explains that he's all right. He said, oh, sorry, Larry, the dad, she calls. And Larry, the dad's like, honey, I'm fine. There's nothing to worry about. It's okay. And
that was my one question. This movie is, when does the dad actually die? Because you don't ever see it, right?
it's at the very end.
Yeah.
I think it's the very
He
end.
takes his body over. So he's the body that they left there. That's his
Well,
carcass.
he takes his skin.
Yes.
takes his skin.
So that's his bone. Those are his bones. And then
Right.
Frank just has his face on. And that's why she thinks.
Right.
So he can escape, because remember, they're looking for Frank. And
Yeah.
people are looking for him.
Well, the Hellraisers or the Cenobites are looking
right.
for
But if he can escape with
a new
Julia,
body. A new body.
and they were, he's technically, Julia's married to Larry.
And,
so,
and to get him ready for this metamorphosis, Julia has to keep basically meeting guys at bars, seducing them, bringing them back to the house, and then she kills them with a fucking hammer. My only thing about this is, like, these guys are always powerless. For whatever reason, like, she hits them once with a hammer, and these guys are like, whoa, oh, like, even later on, there's another guy she brings home, is like, please don't.
Well,
like,
there's
they
one guy that-
never fight back. These
No.
guys that she fucks never fight.
know.
She just beats him to death with a hammer.
I think they're shocked, and I think they're taken off guard because they don't think this woman is going to hit them in the head with a fucking hammer. I think they're like,
Yeah.
Well, it
oh,
would
we're
be
gonna
realistic
fuck
if,
on
like,
the
one of them
floor.
just went, all right, well, I guess that's what she's into. All right.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Just hit me
You know,
with the hammer.
I think one of the least realistic things about all of Hollywood is fight scenes.
Yeah.
Because as someone who spent a lot of time on some very dark Reddit rabbit holes, I can tell you that most courtroom brawls and most real fights are never one-sided. Like, even if like one person ultimately definitively wins, it's like it's a toss-up for the first minute, you know?
Yeah.
That's most of the time. But, you know, obviously Hollywood doesn't want to show that. They want to show, you know, the person they need to show destroying some guy with a hammer.
Right.
And I just don't think that's always how it works.
I don't think he had time. I don't think Clive had time for the struggle. He's like, I got 2 more of these guys to get through. Let's go. Move it on out.
Very true.
You know,
very
so
true.
he didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, and she's picking up a bunch of dumps from like the hotel bar.
Mm-hmm.
This just goes to show how much I think of myself. Like when I'm watching a movie like this, I'll see like the role of victim number 2 and be like, I would nail that role. Man, I wish he'd asked me to audition for that, because I would have been so good at that flabby guy.
The first guy she hooks up with is Phil Collins. He looks like Phil Collins. I could totally see it. He's just like, but he is kind of funny. The one thing that is realistic, like that he does get about like sex, is like when she gets in there and she's like, "Yeah, we're gonna fuck on the floor," and he goes, "All right."
Yeah.
Right.
Who does he care? She's going to fuck him on the
like,
floor.
okay. Yeah, that's a good point. That's actually a very good point, Dan. That is really
something
a very
that guys
realistic moment.
would just
He's like,
be
okay.
all right, yeah, you cool. Like he never like never like guys would never notice like that the place was shitty. We wouldn't notice any of this stuff.
Yeah.
We would just be
Well,
like,
I mean, she leads him past the bedroom up to the attic, and then she's like, I like to do it up here. And that's it, on the floor. And then when she beats him and he dies, and then my favorite part is also like once he's dead, Frank comes over and starts like eating him, and then he's like, "Look away, go away, Julia."
Right.
And she like slowly closes the door. It's kind of amazing.
I remember that.
Leave your tits. Just close your eyes. Leave your tits out and let me eat the body in front of your tits.
It also was an interesting choice that Frank can't do any of the killing. It has to be her.
Yes, he doesn't have the strength. I don't think. I don't think he has the strength until he becomes Larry.
Yeah, maybe that's
and he tries to kill Christy. No, he doesn't. He stabs Julia. Oh, we'll get to it.
No, she does most of the murder. She's really the monster in most of this.
Julia.
Yeah.
Yeah, Julia's the one who's killing. Anyway, meanwhile, the daughter is working at a pet store. There's creepy things happening to her. There's like a homeless guy who walks in and
Who
just
looks,
starts
the Dan St. Germain
eating
role.
I wonder if he was the maggot handler, because he just
He had a real maggot.
there's a few maggot parts. Like at the very end of this, when
I'm
she like
looking
is
it
in
up.
she's in the closet trying to hide from Frank, and she bumps into a body, and then just an inexcusable amount of maggots come out of this mouth.
Fall out of his
Like
his
clearly
mouth.
the maggot handler is like, "Oh, we need more maggots." Well, that's why you hired me.
He's very overzealous in his role. They're like, all right, too many maggots. Jesus, chill
take him
out,
back, dude.
Tony.
And like at the time too, like Clive's like running the set, and he's like, "What do we do about this?" And then you see a hand go back and goes, "No, Terry, no more maggots. Thank you, but no more maggots, Terry."
They had a
Okay, all right, okay, that's fine. I'm sorry. All right.
They had a roach handler too. They did have a roach handler.
handler.
So they had one roach guy handling the roaches and one handling.
That's actually the name
maggots.
of Bryan Singer's sober companion now. That's the official name. Sorry. All right, let's keep going. So like I think we can kind of zip through this a little bit, but so obviously Julia starts to realize that her dad's starting to go like
not Julia.
I'm
Kirsty.
sorry. Kirsty is starting to realize like all is not well in Denmark, if you will. And she's dating this guy who looks exactly like this 80s singer Paul Young.
He does.
He sang Every Time You Go Away from the Planes, Trains, and Automobile soundtrack, but they have the same bouffant.
There you go. Now that's a reference that'll bring the viewers in. Paul Young from the Planes, Trains, and Automobile soundtrack.
Guys, do we want to just do, instead of this, can we just do this? Can we just make this a John Candy in memoriam the rest of this episode?
I would actually love that.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Wait, how is this not as big as Rogan? I'm bringing up Paul Young, the poor man's Peter Cetera.
Oh my god.
Yeah, but all right, you want to take it away, babe? Finish this movie up.
Yeah, let's finish it up. So, more guys die, and she needs one more body, and it's Larry. she's got to get Larry.
But this is the only body she's able to have. She still has some love for Larry. She's like, no, we can't.
Oh, right, because he goes to kill him because she actually has sex with Larry at some point. And he goes to stab him and she's like, please stop, don't. And then so Larry's like, I don't understand, babe. Do you want me to have sex with you or not? So by the time, like a couple scenes later.
The way he says it, he's like, I don't get it.
Oh, yeah, no.
What, are you going to let me fuck or what?
a real Jared Logan type, right?
Yeah. This entire movie is the Jared Logan School of Masculinity.
That's so
Are we going to fuck or what? What's going on here? Jesus Christ.
Oh, good God. So, do we
I love pussy. I just love wet pussies everywhere. I love to eat them. I love to spank them.
By the way, this podcast loves Jared Logan.
We love Jared Logan.
We love
friend of the
Jared
show.
Logan.
He'll be on the show.
Obviously.
Yes, we love him.
Beloved friend.
Okay, so yeah, he's killed, right? So Larry's dead. Larry's dead?
Larry's dead.
Well, just to not get too far in the weeds here,
No,
but like
please.
there's that the daughter drops by the house and she steals that orb because she kind of realizes that there's some weird shit happening.
Yes.
She takes that box that summons these hell beasts, and she is hospitalized, and
she just passes out on the street.
Yeah.
Passes out on the street, which apparently means that you wake up in a hospital room that's locked. And so she starts fooling around with this box, and she sort of opens this portal, and that's really where we meet Pinhead for the first time, I believe,
Yes.
and these Cenobites that are fucking creepy as fuck. I mean, brilliant work with these these three hell, minions or whatever. From there, she tries these ghouls want to basically, I guess, kill her and rip her to shreds. That's like their thing. They're like, we want to rip you to shreds, and she's like, why don't you come back to my place and you can take my uncle, because he's the one that kind of that's sort of broken the curse, and he's back, that escaped. And they're like, we're not happy, but we're not giving up on you yet. And so she somehow escapes, and they get back to the house, and that's where the final climax of the movie is.
Yes.
And if you want to pick it up there.
Well, that's also where the famous line where he tells them, your suffering will be legendary. That's like the big,
right.
the big one. Also, interesting fact, like there was a time, I guess this was last summer, like there was a time in Pete Davidson's, I guess, fashion looks where he looked exactly like the chattering Cenobite. So they kept doing the memes right next to each other. It was really fun.
So Julia gets Larry to go home, and he's like, what's up? And she's like, it's better if you just see for yourself. So then they kill Larry. Then Frank becomes Larry. And
he takes his skin and becomes Larry.
They fuck. They end up, what else do they do? There's like blood all over her. And at first you see Larry's face and you're like, oh, Larry must have killed Frank.
Well,
You still think it's Larry because Kirsty thinks it's her dad until he says, what does he call her? Not baby doll. Something.
Yeah, something creepy.
Shitty.
There's a moment where she realizes that, this isn't her dad. And that's when,
come to daddy.
I guess the actor eventually ad-libs. When the jig is up, the actor ad-libs. Well, I guess that's it. So much for the cat and mouse game, and that's how we know which wasn't in the script. Yeah.
For God's sake.
Yeah, he came up with that. He also came up with the line at the very end of it. He's just supposed to say "fuck you," but he goes, "Jesus wept," which I'm sure.
Oh, I was wondering. I'm like, that doesn't really connect. That line was not big.
But I guess Clive Barker loved it. He was like, "Fuck it, yes,
Jesus
wept, love it, keep it in."
God. If only that level of ad-libbing could have worked in any of the hundreds of commercial auditions I went
to. Yeah, well, he was really great, but he was really great for this Midol commercial, but he kept saying Jesus wept at the end.
Right. He has weird buttons at the end. I don't know what this kid's doing. Not making sense.
Well, first, Frank ends up accidentally stabbing.
Not accidentally. He wants Julia dead. She does move.
No, she moves.
It's accidental, but then he's totally fine with it. I think it's probably. It's a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
And she just kind of...
Sorry, bitch.
Yeah. She kind of like turns old immediately.
Well, because he sucks her soul out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, she's done. Use her up.
Yeah, let me take her soul.
Mm-hmm. And then he's confronted, by the Cenobites. who again, put him back into chains. He goes like, Jesus wept. It does feel a little the end of it when he spontaneously combusts is almost exactly like the end of Little Shop of Horrors when Audrey goes like shit,
Yeah.
and then like they blow up. Like it's kind of comedic.
There are a lot of
it's pretty big.
It's
pretty big.
Yeah.
It's
There's
big.
no nuance. All the like everything you love about Hereditary, where it's like little subtle thing. There's none of that in this movie. It's Clive Barker.
Yeah.
Also, it's Clive Barker's first time.
Yeah, but
This is his first time directing any
there's
movie.
also a lot of religious artifacts throughout. Like, doesn't she go upstairs and there's like a giant?
There's a Jesus head that pops out of the closet at one point.
Yeah. So Clive was definitely, pro the Catholic Church, obviously.
Yeah, very pro-Catholic. Very, very pro-Catholic.
He might have some,
Yeah, he was.
resentment toward
He
it.
left when they got rid of Ratzinger. He really liked Ratzinger. Anyway, the end of the movie, the house burns down. The homeless guy from earlier comes back, goes into the fire to pick up the burning cube, and then turns into like almost like a Jim Henson vampire bat sort of thingy.
It's so
Yeah,
weird.
that was weird.
I think they just like
he looked like a little pterodactyl or something. Like he was just flying like a skinless one.
Yeah, I thought he was kind of cute. It kind of has like a Fraggle Rock feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
It was cute.
It's a different movie for sure.
Yeah. That was a strange end, but I tend to kind of let these things fly. And this is sort of the inferiority complex I have sometimes. I just assumed I was too dumb and I just missed something earlier about dragons or whatever, and that I'm like, I missed something. And this makes perfect sense to everyone but me. And no, turns out no.
And then I guess this creature then goes back to the old Asian man so he can do it again and start the second.
Do it again,
The
man.
last guy it looks like white Lionel Richie. The last guy was about to say it, so it's like it's a weird it's almost like the beginning of the Hello music video. But yeah, that's the end of the movie. This is about to start again. The sequel, which I have seen, I haven't seen forever.
I was just gonna ask, have you seen the sequels?
Yes, I've seen the one sequel, and the sequel's not bad.
We
but
just saw one that was newer, right?
Well, it's her going back into hell to save her dad because he got accidentally taken.
Right.
And then we tried to watch the remake on Hulu, and I wasn't that into it. I think too it's like such a fun mythology in the sense that like the Cenobites, it's not like you said, Brent, it's not like just Jason, they're just killing because there's an element of like if you get to the Cenobites, it's your fault.
Yeah, you
which
fucked
is why
up.
they kind of let her go away,
Well, they just want him they wanted to replace him as like their prisoner. So when he escaped, they needed somebody in there.
Yeah, there is an element of like Icarus escaping Crete. Like, okay, if you're going to get killed,
maybe that's the symbol of the thing flying out.
maybe that is
of
what
the
that
fire.
is. It's somebody who's getting too close. Anyone who dies in this is someone who's getting too close. And even then, it's like it is like it's almost all the deaths are from sexual curiosity again. So it feels like
everybody's punished for being randy.
again missionary.
Sexy.
Stop at a threesome, guys. Doesn't need to get weirder after that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Just you don't need we don't need to turn this fucking thing.
We don't need a pet fish. I mean, just kind of don't rock the boat here. Let's just have threesomes, and that's that.
Let it be
Drape a
what
blanket
it
over
is.
yourself and have sex like a normal
Yeah,
person.
nobody should be coming, dressed in, I should never feel like I'm in a Ryan Murphy set piece when I'm having sex, That's what I think. Just two people, man. A guy, girl, guy, two girl, whatever.
That's all.
However you
I don't
want
care.
it.
Just know
whatever you want to
you
call
don't
it.
need to dress if you're dressing like a He-Man villain, something has gone wrong.
Or to some people, maybe gone right. If you think about it.
Yeah.
I guess
I just pictured Dan dressed like a He-Man villain. It's like my favorite image of all time.
I look if you Google Grizzlor, I look a lot like Grizzlor, who's
I don't think I've ever
actually
seen
know that
him.
character.
Grizzlor is the He-Man sidekick.
Well, he's got Grizz in his name, so you know he's already looking like you, like a grizzly
Grizz,
man,
no
grizzly
Riz.
bear.
It's all Grizz. It's no Riz.
Oh.
But he's very furry. That's his thing. Everybody else in He-Man's like really hot, and
like,
he's just
so
like
Dan.
this furry guy with really nice calves. So there I am. I'm Grizzlor. Brett, where can we find you?
Oh, guys, this was such a pleasure. You're welcome to find me on Instagram if you'd like, Mr. Brent Sullivan. You can also listen to my podcast, You're Making It Worse. I host with dear friends Elliot Glazer and H. Allen Scott.
Really fun podcast,
Such
even
a
though I
fun
got the name
podcast.
wrong right up top.
We have the funniest.
We had a great time this week. Thanks for doing it, guys.
Thank you.
And I had so much fun doing this podcast.
Oh
Thank
my
you.
God, thank you.
Maybe
We love
maybe you'll
seeing
be
you.
our Hellraiser guy when we do Hellraiser 2.
Yeah.
Bring
Oh, you
back.
want it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, bring me back, baby.
That's what I think I want to do. Guests, like they have their own franchise.
Oh, you should do all the
I'd love that.
Hellraisers. I love it. And anything else, Clive? What's his name, Clive?
Clive Barker, he's done a lot of.
Barker.
I think he did Mouth of Madness. That was his other big one.
Yeah, I'm gonna have
He's
to
done
look
a
it
lot
up.
of horror stuff. I think he's really good with horror. I don't know. I'd be interested to see like what his normal, like if he ever wrote like a play like Closer, just like a normal relationship or like
Yeah.
a Tom Stopper
Right.
type thing where
Right.
it seems like he was kicked out of that circle. You know what I mean? In
Yeah.
Madness circle.
Yeah.
It seems like horror wasn't his first choice.
Yeah. Right.
You know. Anyway, dude, thank you so much. You're awesome.
Love you, Brent.
Thank you.
Love you,
Love
buddy.
you guys.